Hey guys, we're back. I apologize, it's been a little while. For those of you that have followed us, you've definitely seen the barn building, you've seen the move, you've probably been along for some of that ride, pardon the pun. But we're back and I'm really excited. I want to take off again today on the second portion of our tack talks. We've talked about shaping and fitting the Bosal. You guys have watched that. Anybody that's a fan of my channel, if you haven't, go there and have a look at that one about how to shape and fit a Bosal to make sure that it fits your horse well. Today we have one that is not shaped yet, and I'm actually going to go out to my back scrap pile and I'm going to find a piece of 2x4 and I'm going to show you guys how to cut a little piece of wood and how to tie this and how to store your Bosal and how to shape it, because when they come from the maker, they've got kind of a teardrop sort of shape, an upside down teardrop sort of shape, and that triangle there in that hackamore or that Bosal can really rub the chin on your horse. So we have to shape it and we've got to store it in a certain shape. So I'm going to run you through the way that I do this. We're going to tie one up, we're going to hang it the way that you would hang it to store it, and we're going to go along for the ride. So why don't you guys come outside and we're going to dig in the wood pile a minute and I'm going to find a chunk of old 2x4 and we'll go cut up a little Bosal shaper. Banjo, what are you doing, puppy? All right. Life of a horse trainer. Look at me go. We've been building the barn, so I got lots of options for Bosal shapers. And I think that one's going to do the trick right there by itself. It's a little piece of 2x4, you know, just about like that. You can see that. And we're going to take it down and put it in the vise, and we're going to cut a little bit of the corner off here, make it a little rounded, so that we can jam that down into that V shape on that hackamore and give you a little bit more shape to those bars. So you guys can come along. Let's go make this thing, let's make this thing into a Bosal shaper. So we've got our little piece here now, and Lucas and I busted off down here to the shop, and I'm just going to take this and put it here in the vise, and I'm going to grab my jigsaw a minute, and we're just going to cut the corners off that thing just a little bit, because we've just moved in here, so I still got to do a lot of poking around and see where everything is. Can't always find everything yet, but we're getting there. I'll leave those lights on. So we're just going to plug this thing in for a minute. We're going to take the corners off, because you'll see once we get up there and once we put this thing on, you're going to see what I mean by shaping these corners a little bit. So make sure that thing's not coming out of there. There we go. So I'm just gonna take this. There we go. go. Little final shape in there. Okay, so we put a little round on there. That's pretty good. All right, we'll jump back into side by side and we'll run back up to the barn there and we're gonna go shape that thing up. We'll set it in there and we'll get, so I've got one that is shaped. I'll show you what it looks like when it's shaped well and it holds really good, because you don't want it to stick out. You don't want that kind of round shape on that thing. And I'll show you when we get back up to the barn. But this will really help us tie that thing down and get that shape real nice, so it's going to fit underneath your horse's jaw and it's going to fit over top on their nose and not have too much play, too much wiggle in it. Because that wiggle is basically you struggling to communicate with your horse. You know, I mean, if stuff's not consistent and balanced and tight, then all of that motion is just kind of white noise, right? So we're going to get that thing real tight for you so that it can sit there, and it's not going to be tight around their nose, but it's got to sit right around that snout with as little wiggle as possible so that you can communicate clearly to them, and that's how they get soft. That's how they understand what you say with your hands. All right. He's right here. Banjo, come. So here we are. We've got back up here to the tack room, and I'm going to pull out a couple of my bosals, and I'm going to show you. We'll just mess around with it a little bit. I might have to run out and get some twine. I think the reason I do this is because I want you guys to see that anybody can do it. If you know how to do it, you can go find something behind the barn. You can make this up. You can look after your stuff. It's not hard. There's not really any excuses for not looking after things. So let me show you one that's shaped well. Let me show you one that's not shaped well, and then we're going to get started on it. We're back up here in the tack room, and here is one that I use every day. This is one that is shaped well. So if you look at it, you can see straight there from the front, Lucas, get a shot of that, where this is going to sit really nice over the horse's nose, but you can also see down here where it has a little more of a straight shape, right? I mean, your horse's nose is not triangular, it actually has a shape, and the two bars on the bottom of its chin are going to sit right in about here. So if these sides get pinched in like that, you can see how that, just in the motion of riding the horse, is going to rub that horse and bother it. So we've gone here. This one has been shaped already, and I'm going to untie it and I'll show you. But this block now fits right in there. So we're going to tie sometimes it works good. That block is going to fit right in there once I untie it. And I'll just show you kind of how it fits. And we're going to tie the top there. We're going to tie that block in there real tight, and we're going to shape that up. See that? And that's going to give us that roundness here, okay? So, as opposed to that one, which is actually shaped fairly well. And you guys can actually see there that I've added some Gorilla Tape. You see that? I've added Gorilla Tape to that. And so some of my youngsters are even still too feely for that rawhide against their chin. So that's just another thing. I've just Gorilla Taped that. We can peel that off and we can reshape this. We'll untie this one when we need to and do all that. But there's another little tip, you know, to keep them comfortable, to make sure that you're not rubbing the hair off their chin when you start them. I'll just put a little tape on there. Here, as opposed to the other one, is one that is not shaped very well yet. And this is the one that we're going to work on. You can see now how this one is a little bit uneven. You see that? How it's a little bit crooked? It should be a little more over here. And you can see how wide this is. And you can imagine if you put the horse's nose in here, that that's really sitting quite a bit too far on either side of the horse's face. So there's probably going to be a gap over here, and those gaps mean that this is going to run on the top of his nose and it's going to sit on there rather than, I think like I said in my previous video, I want to have the feeling that I've kind of put my hands around that horse's nose, you know. I want to be able to take him and pull him this way and pull him that way. So if we don't shape this, this is going to just kind of hang on the top of his nose and it's going to swing like that. So let's untie this one. Okay. All right, so we've untied this now, and now you can really see it. If you look at it, you can really see how that has this, you know, triangular shape, how that's kind of tight in there, and that's going to run into that horse's jaw. You can also see actually this one's quite crooked. You see how far that thing pulls off to one side? You know, so that's going to make a difference too, obviously, right? So this is why we've pulled this one out, and we're really going to have to shape this. So I need to go and grab 2 more things. I need to get 2 sets of string. I need a string that's going to tie this around where the Bosal hanger sits. So we're going to tie right there, and we're going to tie this tight kind of so we get that better shape. And then we're going to jam that block in here, and we're going to spread that apart, and we're going to tie it like that and hang it a couple weeks, you know, whatever it takes for that to find that memory. So I'm going to be right back. I'm going to go find you guys a piece of string or some twine. You can use a leather lacing, whatever, you know, whatever you got. There's always something around, and there's no magic to it. It just has to work, right? All right, I found some twine in the hay shed. So what I've done is I've just gone to the hay shed. You guys came along with me, and I'm just going to tie this on here. So it's right there where the hanger is. You see that? That's where it's going to sit. And we're going to just take this around here a little bit. And we're going to tie this about the width that you want. So you imagine we're going to straighten this thing out. See, look at when I squeeze that, you see how crooked this thing is, right? Just go here. It just has to hold this. You see? So we've got that looked after. Now we're going to go back to this block, and this one isn't going to like me too much, but we're going to jam that thing right in there. And now it's going to make sense. You see that? So now we can mess around with that a little bit, and we can play with how this fits and how that sits against the top. Try to shuffle this around a little bit. See that? So we're putting pressure there, and we're tying that thing at where the Bosal hanger comes so that we can get a little better shape out of it. So, you know, I'm just going to mess around with it a little bit until I really have a good shape to it. You see that? So, and then you can see where it starts to bulge out over here, it bulges out over there. It's kind of still a little bit crooked. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab another twine, and we're going to go around here a bunch and get rid of there. If I pull it down, you can really see that. You see that? How that really has a weird bow to it. So we're going to set that thing in here. And now we're going to take this one. Just like that. We're going to get started. Get that one out of my way there. Get started here, and I'm just going to run down. I'm going to cinch this thing to this piece of 2x4 until I'm happy. You see that? Then I'm going to slide it underneath here somewhere. See, so there we are. We've got that thing. It's going to look a little funny for a bit. I might have to readjust it and mess around with it and, you know, play around with it until it's really good. But we're going to be a lot better off here in a few weeks when this thing finds its own way. This one really did have a bad bend in it, didn't it? So you can see I'm just going to keep
playing with that until I'm a little happier with the shape. And we're just going to keep that thing wrapped, and then I'll let it out and I'll mess around with it, and we'll wrap it some more. A little higher there. And then we're just going to take this, and we're going to hang it here in the tack room on a nail. So we'll just pick a nail over here. We're going to hang that thing up right there and let that sit for a little while. And I'll come back in once in a while. And you see that, how that's still, I'm not happy with how uneven that is. But we'll start messing around with that as this thing finds its own shape. We'll try to help it out. And I might come back in another video and might see where that thing ends up. You guys can see that hanging there. We're going to just let it sit. It's warm in here. It's heated. There's an exhaust fan in here, so we keep the moisture out. It's going to be really good that way. So thank you guys. That's a lot of fun. We'll add that to fitting your Bosal, the talk that we had a couple months ago now. It's been a while. And I really appreciate you guys coming around.